And we have now come to the last roundtable of this final seminar of Iktimed. We will be discussing the role of KICs and how they can influence the Mediterranean area. While I allow the last participants to leave the roundtable, I will start introducing the next ones. For this last roundtable, we have Professor Silvia Rita Sedita from the University of Padua, Mr. Maurizio Malè, Project Manager of Centro Regionale di Assistenza per la Cooperazione Artigiana, Mr. Miquel Martí, Director of Finance and Operations at Biocat, the Catalan bioregion, and Ms. Ruggiera Sarcina, representing Italy in the Mediterranean Innovation Communities, MICs. And moderating this roundtable is Camille Busquet from the company of Blue Nove. Thank you very much.
So hello everybody. We're supposed to have only 20 minutes left, so I hope that you won't be too bothered to stay a little bit more. I hope that the subject will be fun and interactive. So we'll try to make it quick. So I ask all my fellow speakers to try to make their introduction in 5 to 8 minutes maximum, so that we can then ask some different questions and have an interactive discussion. I will just start to explain you a little bit about, our main subject, which is the KIC, also known as Knowledge and Innovation Communities, which are an independent but operational part of the European Institute of Innovation Technologies. The KIC are, as you may all know, highly integrated, creative, and excellence-driven partnership which bring together the fields of education, public and private research, technology, business, entrepreneurship, and governments in order to produce new innovations or innovation models towards Europe. I can briefly mention the 3 first KICs which were started back in December 2009, which were the Climate KIC, InnoEnergy, and the EIT ICT Labs. So to make it, to give you a perspective with the MIC, what we call the MIC, which are the Mediterranean Innovation Communities, and it's so the Iktimed project aimed to inspire itself from those KICs and to start developing similar innovation communities around the Mediterranean area. So the 6 main subjects Anna told us about it this morning are eco-energy, digital tech tourism, biotech for natural foods, smart home, and biomed. So just to let you know, what the Iktimed partners did with those different MICs and what is the project. So those MIC gather both Iktimed partners and local players, such as organizations, SMEs, and an online tool has also been designed to help those different partners to stay in touch on a regular basis and to share knowledge together. The goals of each MIC is different. That was the reason why we worked on defining which would be the macro objective for each MIC yesterday. So what happened yesterday, very quick, the MIC participants were divided in groups and worked on the following aspects, which are what would be the macro objective for a Mediterranean innovation community, and to reach which concrete outcome on a short-term basis. Then all groups try to design a first action roadmap in order to start collaborating and to have first concrete stories to build, so in the 2 to 3 months to come. Some groups, for instance, are willing to work on the definition of new business ideas. Some other came up with perspective of trying to share all their respective knowledge on regulation issues within the Mediterranean area and ways to solve it. And some other groups are willing to develop new business model and new partnership opportunities. So that's what's happening with the MIC. And I will now let my fellow speakers introduce themselves very quick and tell us more about their own field of expertise. And then I will have a couple of questions to ask you. So maybe I think we should start maybe with Maurizio. I don't know how the slides are prepared. No, so we start with Silvia. Ladies first.
Good morning. My name is Silvia Sedita, and I'm from the Department of Economics and Management of the University of Padova, where I teach marketing and management of creativity. And today, I can see that the Iktimed project was the venue for building community of people working on innovation and community. And this is a very relevant aspect in proceeding towards innovation in Europe. The focus of my presentation today is on communities of practice and the social life of innovation. This I want to focus on this specific aspect of innovation that comes from social interactions between people and experts of different disciplines that can interact in formal and informal ways in order to produce new creative ideas and eventually innovations. How can I go further? Yeah. I identified three key concepts that to me are important. The first one is the concept of open innovation that was already taken in account during the first roundtable, and the concept of social networks and the concept of communities of practice. Let's go quickly on and when we focus on open innovation strategies, we face a shift from the closed innovation model towards the open innovation models. And let me briefly explain this shift. When we talk about closed innovation, we think at innovation that is developed within organization, and the resources available are only the internal resources of the organization. When we talk about the open innovation model, then we can see that the strategy of searching for ideas and sources of innovation is more open, and it includes also other partners and collaborators outside the organization. It involves clients and suppliers, and we can see that we have a complete ecosystem for innovation. Of course, when you widen the resources available for the innovation process, you enhance your probability to find out something interesting and something that can answer the different requests of clients, suppliers, and all the actors and agents, stakeholders of the innovation process. When we go in search for a good idea, we have a wide pool of resources. We can find out a new idea not only within the organization but also in the market. But the market has some problems. There are risks to go to the market for finding out new ideas and input for the innovation process. So maybe it's more secure to go and search for a good idea within a social network where trust relationships and these social acquaintance can help the way people interact and produce new ideas. And if you go further and we talk about the thickening of these social networks, we can think about community. A community, of course, includes the idea of sharing culture, sharing the same language, sharing the same objectives. And therefore, the community seems to be one of the good places to find out people that share the same objectives, with whom to collaborate and further developing innovative projects. And of course, we have to also mention the presence of the social media and the social media networks and communities built on the web, virtual communities that are more and more often involved in different sectors and different markets. When we talk about community building, we talk about the idea that we can have a wide range of epistemic communities, for example, community of professionals like architects or engineers and so on, that are formal communities that share the same competencies and the same background. But then we can talk about communities of practice that are people that share some common practice, they share the same objectives, and then they can be included in the same organization, or also they can work for different organizations, but they collaborate also outside the organization boundaries. And this community of practice is powered by social ties. The idea of participating in a community of practice allow people to select members with whom to collaborate further in projects that can push some products or some service into the market. So the project-based organization can be developed out of a community of practice. And if we look at the interchange between a community of practice and a project-based organization, we can look at the existence of knowledge innovative communities where people are linked by social ties, but they are also involved in projects. Of course, this is a flavor of what I have also developed in this work with my colleague from the University of Padua, Marco Bettioli. You can, if you are interested, you can go and look at this work. So we have this shift from sharing interests and sharing values and ideas within a community to sharing practices and develop these practices into projects. So just to give you an example of what can be this implementation of community building and project development, we can see, for example, the Emirates Design Network. It is a group, a LinkedIn group, that group people that are designers in the Emirates. These people spontaneously subscribed to this community online in LinkedIn. And they share the same objectives. They want to perform some projects in the Emirates, the design projects, and they decided also to share expertise and knowledge, and also to meet outside the community, for example, organizing some events, such as the Dinner with Design Days in Dubai. And then these social events can be also combined with some business events. For example, the participation to one of the most important trade fair for designers, that is the Index, organized every year in Dubai. And then they can, for example, find here occasion to develop common projects, such as, for example, this project of Vertical Garden, and then go back to the community and sharing again new input and developing this relationship, these connections between virtual community, community of practice, and project development. So the idea is to move towards an innovation ecosystem where we can see organizations as ecologies of values, and where the important thing is to look at the micro-foundation of creativity and innovation processes. We're not only looking at formal collaborations, business collaborations, R&D projects, but we are looking to the social environment where innovation can be put forward. And so that's why I talk about social life of innovation, where social networks, a community of practice, and creative and innovation projects are at the very basis of this process. So I thank you for the attention, and I hope we can also raise some questions and debates around the topic.
Thank you, Silvia. So now we can see with Maurizio, what he would like to share with us today. So I don't know if you have your slides ready.
Okay, good morning, everyone. So I work for CRACA. CRACA is a regional office of the National Association Confartigianato, which is an association of small enterprises, of craftsmen enterprises. And we are active in the Veneto region since 1978. And CRACA is a consortium, is a cooperative association with 70 consortia as members. So our members are associations and consortia of small and very, very small enterprises. So this is the system going from national level down to provincial offices representing the enterprises. I'm going a bit faster. In Italy, 500,000 enterprises are members of Confartigianato, and in our region we have 70,000 members of the association. The services to enterprises are credit, training, and especially for my organization, helping in cooperation among enterprises. Also international cooperation. Well, I'm going right to this slide because I'm presenting the role of CRACA. In this case, the role of KIBS, Knowledge Intensive Business Service. So we are helping enterprises in the aggregation, so creating new clusters, together with other subjects, public bodies, credit institutes, associations, even international subjects. And we are providing knowledge in the aggregation procedure, for example, in networking. So at the end, we provide enterprises with services about knowledge, about aggregation. There are two cases we identified. The first is when an enterprise is searching for partners in order to develop common projects. The second case is when the enterprise is searching for themes, for new projects to develop, like research and development case. So in the first case, the user comes to CRACA, and we help enterprise in the partner search, in the project definition, and then in the management. And for example, also with funding from structural funds, European funds from European programs. And the second case is more oriented to help the enterprise finding a good environment, finding the good partners, and finding the correct topic to address in their new projects. So usually the process is the one you see in this slide. I think the most important part is the mapping. So we meet enterprises, and this is the most critical part, because enterprises are not used to strategical plan. They are not used to what we propose. They don't speak English. Sometimes they don't speak even well Italian. They speak dialects in our region. So it is really difficult to approach them, to convince them participating in meetings with other enterprises because they don't have time, they have their business. So it is very critical to contact and include the enterprises in the process. But then once you include and once they are convinced that they can get business from this, they are really active because, as I told you, maybe they don't speak English or Italian, but they are able to produce, for example, very high quality shoes and sell them all over the world, in Russia, in China, and they sell a lot. And they are great in their work, but sometimes they miss the strategic part. So we might help them in this part. As, for example, the strategic positioning, but I'm not going further. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Maurizio. So now I let Miquel introduce himself.
Hi, I'm Miquel Martí, Director of Business Development of BioCat. I'd like to add the perspective of an organization that has been working in the EIT for more than 3 years, and which right now we are fostering 2 bits for the next call. So first of all, I'd like to introduce a little bit our organization. BioCat is the organization that promotes biotechnology, biomedicine, and medical technologies in Catalonia. It's an organization fostered by the government of Catalonia, the Barcelona City Council, and a lot of private companies. The Bio region holds more than 500 biotech, pharma, medtech, and related services companies, 54 research centers, 20 science and technology parks, and 10 universities offering studies in life sciences. As an introduction and relating BioCat with the EIT, I'd like to make some brief story. In March 2008, the European Commission created the EIT. The first concurrence that happened was the competence between Sant Cugat and Budapest to host the headquarters. At the end, Budapest won, and it's where the headquarters is right now. In March 2009, BioCat began to work in a bid for an in health-related topic, and with the agreement of the governments of the central government and the government of Catalonia. The first call of KICS happened in 2009, and the resolution in December 2009. And the launch of the KICS were in 2010. The KIC winners, as Camille said, were the KIC in Energy, the Climate KIC, and the ICT Labs. Meanwhile, and waiting for the new call, BioCat has been working through 2 ways. First of all, by networking and by participating with potential European partners in Europe. Here we have the 2 projects on which we found some of the partners we have now in our consortium. And the other thing we've done is to create projects linked with the EIT spirit. I mean, fostering entrepreneurship, creating startups, and in fact, and as a brief, it's increasing the capacity of Europe being competitive against China or US. And one of these projects is Moebio. It's an initiative where it's all about the formation in the boundaries. The flagship program, in fact, it's a program based on Stanford Biodesign project where multidisciplinarity it's the key point. It's not only health-related, it's about innovation in healthcare and to put entrepreneurs in the system, but it's through the multidisciplinarity. Engineers, designers, and MDs and people with an economic background work together to create startups. And at the end, on November 2011, the Strategic Innovation Agenda came out with 6 topics. Here you have the 6th one: innovation for healthy living and active aging, fit for future, raw materials, added value manufacturing, smart, secure societies, and urban mobility. It's foreseen that the first call in 2014, innovation for healthy living, food for the future, raw materials will be included. But right now it's under discussion. With a Catalonian perspective, we choose these 2 topics: innovation for healthy living and food for future. And right now, we fostered a Catalan bid integrated in a Spanish bid and a European bid. Here you can see the Catalan partners, the UB, University of Barcelona, with its campus of excellence, BioCat, La Caixa, and IES. And we're integrated in large consortia, which includes people from UK, people from Benelux, from Sweden, and from Germany. On the other part, we try to foster another bid with food-related topic. And here our partners are mainly focused in Denmark, Sweden, France. We participate as in a supranode with France, Italy, the Netherlands and Belgium, and the United Kingdom. Here in Catalonia, you can find at the top and at the bottom left, you can find our main partners: IRTA, BioCat, UDL, University of Lleida, University Rovira i Virgili, and our partner in Basque Country. And nowadays, what's our action plan? We're following the European agenda that it's happening right now, the trialogue, with the discussions among the European Parliament, the European Council, and European Commission about the MMFF, Multi-Annual Financial Framework 2014-2020. That includes the budget on the EIT, that it's estimated on 2.6 billion euros. The final EIT regulation and the Strategic Innovation Agenda that has to define the 3 topics included in the 2014 call, and the EIT documentation that has to come out in a few weeks. Referring to KIC bids, we're working on the definition of European consortia. We're participating in working groups about governance and content, and we're participating in European consortium meetings, boards and working groups. We're working on the internal consolidation of Catalan and Spanish bids, and we're trying very hard to get companies involved, because the IT, it's above all about getting company involvement. So that's all. So you should follow, if you are interested in the topic, you should follow that. That's the calendar, the agenda for the next month. Right now, they're talking about the MFF, and the following weeks, they're going to define the budget on the EIT, the topics which will be included on the next call, and finally, it's more or less at the end of the year, the EIT is going to launch the call. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. So now I introduce you to Ruggiera, who is going to tell us a little bit more about her.
Thank you, Camille. First of all, lucky you, at least for today, and it's late, I do not have a PowerPoint presentation. So I will really in a few words, who I am and what I'm here for. I'm Ruggiera Sarcina. For the Iktimed project, I'm in charge for facilitating, or try to facilitate, the participation of Marche organization to the community, to the project communities. I'm a practitioner. I mean, my one part of my job is facilitate cooperation process, especially between small and medium-sized enterprises. I have a huge experience on that, work in different sectors with different company size in different parts of Italy, Europe, and also other parts of the world. I'm a director of an organization called Reflective Learning Italy, which is the Italian chapter of a UK-based organization called Reflective Learning International. We make our facilitation job by an approach based on what we call the 4 pillars, or a PAR approach. PAR means participation, appreciation, action, and reflection. These are the 4 pillars of our organization, of our facilitation activities. Participation, because of course a facilitation process has to be based on respect a truly democratic participation approach between all the different members of the community, of the team, of the organization we work with. Second, the appreciation, which means appreciate and encouraging different perspective, different know-how, different experience, different talents we can face with the different communities of the different organizations. And action, which means, of course, that all the facilitation process has to be addressed to make the community aware and to pursue something concrete from the community. So defining objective, defining work plan, giving all the instruments, all the tools the community can act, not only discuss. And fourth, the fourth pillar of our approach is the reflection, which means make each participant in some way aware on how it's important to continuously reflect in action and reflect on action, because this is the prerequisite, the condition sine qua non for assuring a continuous improving process. That's all.
Thank you, Rogera.
Oh, so this is finished? Let's finish the session. So this is a round table. I'm not the PowerPoint presentation, but I'm ready for the questions, of course.
Okay, so let's start the questions. Before I leave the question to the audience, I have myself a few questions to ask to our speakers. At first, I was listening to your presentation. We're talking about open innovation. We're talking about communities. Ways of cooperating, and both at the KICS level and also at the mix level that I introduced to you. One key question is, okay, we know that there are a lot of different initiatives going on, but we are all, I think, curious about very specific and concrete results that came out of the first cooperation initiative that you've experimented. So do you have the key example of a success story through those cooperation that you could share with us? I don't know, maybe Mikuel or maybe Maurizio? Thank you.
Yes, I can bring the experience that was also in what I said earlier, the experience of a European project, maybe 2 European projects we are involved in. One is coordinator. Krakow coordinated an Intelligent Energy Europe project, and we helped in the creation of new clusters of very small enterprises about energy services. So they are installers, they are energy auditors, and we helped small enterprises aggregating and joining competences and knowledge in different skills in order to provide the final customer with a complete service for example, in the refurbishment of old buildings. So in this way, you don't have to call one person for the photovoltaic plan, one for the insulation, and another one. The cluster is now giving a complete service, considering all the aspects of of refurbishment of the building. And in this project, the name is Prometheus. In this Prometheus project, in different countries of Europe, 9 clusters started, including each cluster, including from 5 to 20 subjects, including enterprises, but also universities, public bodies, so consultants. And this was a very interesting approach. As I showed earlier, we started by meeting interested craftsmen, so the smartest craftsmen were participating because they understood it was an opportunity to grow up their business. And they started by mapping, so defining their needs. Sometimes they didn't even know they had a need to cooperate with others, and they found out, yes, really, we really need to open and cooperate. For example, installers with architects. They didn't want to speak each other until now. And it is the first time we see installers saying, we need to talk with planners, architects. And it was really a waking up in their conscience about the new business they can have in the refurbishment of buildings. And so this is one approach, to start from the very low level, bottom up, but bottom, very small enterprises joining together. And another project we participated in is the Keen Region project that was on a higher level, merging together nanotechnology experts all around Europe. So nanotechnology clusters from different countries, Spain, France, Italy. And that was another level, more technological, but it was really also interesting to see that cooperation could bring really good step forwards in the research, because before each cluster was just doing its own job without looking at others' job. And the meeting, a simple meeting between people working in the same field could bring a lot of experience that before we couldn't reach.
Thank you, Maurizio. Any other example of results that came out of such initiative you would like to share with us, maybe? Nicole, I was wondering about the kicks that you presented. I mean, do we have, I mean, maybe for the first one that came out, such as the climate one, I mean, do we have something very concrete that came out of it and that has been already presented?
In fact, we don't participate with
Sure.
the 3 ones. We know more or less how they work. Right now, they're starting to deliver results. They're putting a lot of efforts on fostering projects, common projects, shared projects among all the collocation centers. More or less, the average is more or less 6 per kick, and they're trying to get results from cooperation and at very different levels. The universities, the research centers, and the companies should work together to deliver projects and to get funded by the EIT at the KICs. I think that's the key point on the EIT. That the EIT puts money on projects that's worth.
Right. So now, I mean, we're talking about results. We know that when we start a cooperation community, we need to think about the outcome and the way of maybe trying to reach specific objectives. Maybe, Ruggiera, you can share with us, I mean, what we were discussing yesterday with the different partners.
Yes, why not? I'd like to change a little bit the perspective, because if the question is, give us some example of a successful cooperation, of course I will answer, but first of all, I would change a little bit the perspective, because the keywords collaboration means being committed, a verbal in working together for a shared common objectives. So collaboration is, first of all, a process, not only the final output of the process. So when we talk about the success of collaboration, in my point of view, it's important also to remind, to underline the success of process, which is the condition sine qua non, the first really success leading to also a success output. And of course, I can have tens of examples of this, but coming back to our community, of course, we are at a really early stage because the community, although the project is at the end of its life, the community have been just launched. And yesterday, for the first time, the community met, and persons coming from different countries, different organizations, with different expectations met. I directly participated to one of this community, the one of Smart Home, and I have to say how much I did appreciate how the community, in just a couple of hours, agreed on which were the objectives the community should have, which will be the basic roadmap, work plan for organizing the work of the community. They agreed on giving within the community different roles for getting the objective and organize better the work plan. They agreed in enlarging the community in some way by optimizing and enlarging to each member other networks. In Italian we say, il buongiorno si vede dal mattino, which means you can understand if you will have a good day since the early morning. So if this is true, I am really optimistic that starting from the result of yesterday's kick-off workshop, the community, the Iktimed community will be a success story as well.
Thank you, Roger. Another key question is, we're talking about innovation communities, but both are local, because, local SMEs would like to be involved in such communities, to introduce themselves and to have an opportunity to work with other companies. And we have also foreign partners who would like to develop something at a European or at a Mediterranean level. I would like to know if you have some recommendation on how to manage such communities, both at a local and at an international level.
So, another thing that it's quite important. It's any project promoted by a KIC, it should have at the end a buyer. Someone who takes responsibility of the product or the service developed. So I think that's the point. It's the point, or the main point. I think it's by putting the SMEs at the beginning of the design of any project. So my recommendation is to put in the beginning any SMEs.
Silvia, maybe you want to say something?
I think that there are, of course, differences between types of projects, type of industries, and the type of collaborations between firms and experts. And we have to distinguish between, for example, putting together some entrepreneurs in some industrial districts in Italy to collaborate and participate to, for example, an internationalization project is already difficult to find out, as Maurizio spelled out before. So when we talk about enlarging this community of entrepreneurs, including also foreign partners, then it is a bit difficult to look at this process. And we have to take in account some barriers, some cultural barriers that are difficult, but also some barriers on the policy, or national policies, and national financial systems. So even if we are in Europe, there are many differences between different countries. And so it's difficult to think about a general approach to enhancing communities. We have to take in account, I think, all these difficulties. And then I'd like to add a note on this. Then when we talk about innovation, then we think about radical innovation, something really large and breakthrough. But as already have been put forward by someone in the audience, innovation is also something incremental. We can have incremental innovation, we can have managerial innovation, innovation in the business models of companies. And I think that we can look at this also as a result of collaborations. Sometimes collaborations don't really generate radically new products or services, but collaborations can enhance a different way to look at the process, how firms put the product in the market. And I think that also this is very important. And also the acknowledge of the possibility to have international collaborations can generate a different approach for companies. So companies can enlarge their point of view, looking at different way also outside the boundary, not only of the local district, but of the nation and also Europe. So I think, yes, we have to look also at this type of innovation.
Do we have questions in the audience, maybe, for our speakers? Yes.
Okay, thanks a lot for the presentations. Just I have a very critical question in my mind. I'm an academic. I go around and I do research with small, medium enterprises in my area, in Greece, all over, or even all over Europe in some cases. And usually, I get answers from the small and medium enterprises that all those initiatives, knowledge innovation communities, and so on, are set for specific companies. So only just a few companies can really benefit. If I go back to the people in my area and talk to the business people, how can I persuade them that this is not true?
Maybe you should check the list of the companies involved in kicking energy. You will see that more than 100 are involved right now, and more than 60% are SMEs, and not large SMEs. I mean, SMEs that you can find in some place close to Barcelona. So the point is to be a little bit of disruptive and to be courageous, and to the perspective of wanting to take risk. So if you want it, you can get it. That's the point, that you can, if you go to any EIT meeting, and you can see that SMEs get their part, because they get money, they get talent, they get technology that usually they don't get. So I think it's not quite easy, because it's not a good moment to say quite easy, but it's easy to have a few arguments to convince them to get involved in a risky project.
If I can say, what I'm saying is I agree entirely with Mauricio when he said that in his area there are a lot of small businesses. They don't even talk Italian, so I can say the same. Mm-hmm. In my area, there are businesses they don't even speak Greek. But that's is that the idea? Is that it's a conceptual idea? Are we trying in a regional dimension to involve those businesses, because in order to involve those businesses, Mauricio gave the answer, give them an example. If you don't give them an example, there's no point that you involve those. But is the idea to involve those even small businesses, or the idea is just to pick 1, 2, 3 winners in every region?
The idea is to get the maximum involvement. It doesn't matter if they speak Greek or Italian. It's more about people like you getting them involved. I think it's quite different because usually they don't get the message, but that's your role. Spread the message. I think that's the point.
Yes, if I can add something, this is completely true. Sometimes they don't even want to be involved. They see it as losing their time. But I think a very important role is the role of facilitator, as we have some examples, good examples here. And the facilitator is also a translator, coming back to the language, not only the language Greek or Italian, but the language of management, the language of cooperation, knowledge. Enterprises, they have a lot of skills, technology, money. They have a lot of things, but they are not able to put them on the table in the right way, and they need a guide. They need a guide a person or an organization who can tell them how to better use their tools. And sometimes they don't understand this need. So sometimes you need someone to push them, to lead them strongly, to push them to be involved and to participate. Come to the meeting, we will discuss. You see, there is this cluster that had success following this process. You can do the same in your area. And also another thing, this facilitator is talking with people. So behind an enterprise there is a person, and you have to be ready to adapt your strategy case by case. So if a person doesn't like oranges, you cannot go and and push him to eat orange. So you need to adapt and to understand the real need of this person, the person, not the enterprise, because we help people connecting, cooperating, and sometimes you don't understand why, but two people, they don't like each other and they will never cooperate. You cannot force them. So the intelligence of the facilitator is to understand the right way to connect people and to understand their needs and to make them understand their own needs, because they have needs and sometimes they don't understand what they need, and you talk with them, you invite them to a meeting with the facilitator, and then they come up and say, I really need to cooperate with this other enterprise. And this is successful if you do it in the right way, because they got business.
Thank you. And we have one last question, maybe? Yes?
Can you tell me something about living labs? Which could be the role of some living labs in KICS, for example?
In fact, living labs are placed on one thing that's called RIC, Regional Innovation Community. They're placed in this. They use a lot living labs. In fact, in Climate Kick, there's one in Valencia, and they're trying to foster more. And the EIT has asked to include more countries for everywhere in Europe. So as it's almost impossible to include all countries and a lot of regions as collocation centers, the number of RICs and the number of living labs is going to increase a lot. So the living labs they're going to have real importance in EIT in the following years.
Okay, so I think we can maybe stop here because I'm pretty sure everybody wants to go to the networking time. So thank you all for your attention and hope to see you there.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much to all the participants of this roundtable. We have now come to the closing of this Iktimed Final Seminar. We hope that you have found this event interesting and that has offered you additional information regarding the new policies of the European Union. We'd like to thank you for participation and interest. For more information on the Iktimed project, please visit www.iktimed.eu. As soon as possible, we will be posting images and videos of all the presentations and roundtable discussions from this event. So at this time, we would like to invite you all to join us downstairs for a cocktail, for yet another opportunity to get in contact with other companies and institutions. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. See you soon.